Hey guys, today I'm going to look at the testimony of Valery Lowe, who was one of Tara's roommates in 2001. My general impressions of Valery were similar to Ashley. I thought that she was a bit defensive and a bit rude, but I thought that she did look a lot more uncomfortable on the stand than Ashley did. At times it looked like she was almost crying. So I did feel sorry for her, but like Ashley, she really tried to qualify every answer that she gave and added extra information and just didn't like giving any straight answers. So let's have a look.
Do you recall telling Investigator Black, first semester school, she would always be at Chris Melton's house all the time, like every night. It seemed like she was never at home. And then when we got back for second semester, Tara wasn't doing that anymore.
That's concurrent with what we just heard, yes.
Well, no, that wasn't on what we just heard.
Right,
That's a separate. Okay.
Yes.
But you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Now, on New Year's Day of 2001, do you recall stopping back by your house at 160 Fun Drive?
I don't remember exactly, it's been 25 years ago, which day we stopped by, but we did stop through Athens.
Okay. Based on the recording that you heard, do you recall stating on New Year's Day 2001, you were on the way to Hilton Head Beach? It was you, Mrs. Ashley Peavy Hall, Chris Hall, and your significant other. Do you recall making that statement?
Yes.
And when you stopped in at your home on New Year's Day, you found that Miss Baker was home alone.
Yes.
And you were shocked to find Miss Baker home alone on New Year's Day. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, typically college students would go home during the holidays, but I, hadn't lived with Tara, so I didn't know her patterns of when she went home and when she wouldn't have gone home.
Okay, and based on our discussion regarding how she was with Chris from August to December, is it fair to say that you probably expected her to be with Chris?
I don't know where I would have expected her to be. It was the holidays, so.
But you and Miss Ashley Peavy Hall, you two were with your significant others, is that right?
Yes.
Now, from January 1st to January 19th, that's going to be the focus of this portion of our conversation, okay? You would agree Miss Baker had stopped going to Chris Melton's home, is that right?
She hadn't stopped going there. She just wasn't going as often, I would say. I don't remember fully, how many days a week or anything like that.
I feel really bad for Attorney Cruz here because she's quite rude and she just doesn't want to give a straight answer at all. And when towards the end of this, we'll play a little bit of the redirect where Chris with a K asks her some follow-up questions, and you can see the immediate shift in her demeanor as well. So we'll have a look at that a little bit later, but let's look at the next bit.
My question specifically is, during the month of 2001, Miss Baker had stopped going to Chris' home. Is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
You also noticed that she was no longer spending much time with Chris. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You would agree that there was a noticeable shift in the relationship between Chris and Miss Baker before her death?
I don't know anything about their relationship necessarily, but her patterns had changed.
So that little part of her testimony was after there had been an objection, I think, by Chris with a K about not refreshing recollection properly or something. And they'd sent the jury out, and then they got Valery to listen to part of her interview with Lizzie. And then you can see she's really not happy about having to answer those questions. And I think those are really important answers because they really show what Tara and Chris's relationship was like at that time. It's too suspicious that all of the witnesses that knew them as a couple are trying to backpedal and change their story. It's obvious what's going on. It's obvious that they've been coached, and it's really infuriating to watch. It's terrible. And for someone who says that she didn't really have that type of relationship with Tara, that she would talk about things like that, that's not what it seems like when you listen to her previous interviews and things. So it's just dodgy.
You recall speaking with Agent Bigham in regards to the shift in Ms. Baker's relationship. Do you remember that conversation?
I do.
Okay, so this isn't the first time you've been asked that question about the shift in Ms. Baker's and Chris Melton's relationship. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In your statement to Elizabeth Bigham when she asked you, but it was like a noticeable shift, you said it was definitely a shift. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask you this.
So I really like the next bit because Cruz questions her about why her answers are different and gets a little bit feisty with her, which is good because you can see that he's trying really hard to not upset anyone and not cause any objections and stuff because of the bias of the judge, obviously. So he's stepping really, really carefully, but in this next bit he kind of doesn't do that. So let's have a look.
Would you agree that some of your answers have changed here today versus when you spoke with Agent Bigham?
No, they have not.
No?
I mean, it's been 25 years, so I've been asked lots of questions over the years.
That's fair. Do you recall speaking to Ms. Bigham on May 3rd, 2024?
Yes, I do remember speaking with her.
And some of the questions that I am asking you, you've learned are the same questions that Ms. Bigham has asked you, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree that some of the answers that I've gotten originally have been different from the answers you've given Ms. Bigham?
I don't recall that, but I mean, I listened to the statement that you played.
Okay. Is there any reason that do you feel the need to protect Chris Melton?
No, I don't.
Okay. And you are going to be truthful and honest with the jury?
Yes.
Okay.
The next bit is also really annoying because Valery doesn't want to give a straight answer, but this is the part that really does make it clear that Chris and Tara were on the outs or, breaking up or whatever. But she really doesn't want to say that directly.
After noticing the shift in Ms. Baker's relationship, do you recall asking her if everything was okay?
Yes.
And based on Ms. Baker's response, it is fair to say that your takeaway was that Chris was no longer a focus for Ms. Baker.
Her focus was on school.
Is it fair to say that her relationship with Chris was a distraction for her?
Yes. Her focus was on school.
So the next bit, Cruz is just trying to go through what the apartment was like generally and talking about how many people would be in the apartment at any given time. And then he talks about how that sort of tells us that the attacker or the perpetrator probably was aware of the fact that Tara wasn't going to be home on that night. And Chris with a K gets a bit uppity at this point because he doesn't like the questions or the way that Cruz is asking the questions. Because Cruz has a good point and the prosecution doesn't like it when Cruz has a good point, which is kind of frequently.
So at any given time, there could be 6 people in the house. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And even with the single car in the driveway, there could still be at least 2 people in the house. Is that right?
Correct, if someone had somebody there.
Okay. Well, boyfriend, girlfriend, couple. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Based on the number of people that could be in the house at any given time, is it fair to say that it seems as if the person that killed Miss Baker was certain that she would be home alone?
Your Honor, I object. That calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Your statement to law enforcement was that it was like someone knew that she was going to be home alone. Is that-
In my objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule that objection.
Can you repeat that?
Absolutely. Your statement to law enforcement was that it was like someone knew she would be home alone. Is that correct?
I did make that statement, yes.
And then Cruz goes further with that concept of someone must have known that she was home by herself. And he talks about the valuables that were in their house and how there was no valuables taken from any of the other rooms, despite there being lots of valuables kind of just left out in the open in the other rooms. So that finishes off his cross-examination. And then Chris with a K gets up and does a redirect with his really irritating tone of voice. And yeah, it's this is where you can see the change in Valery's demeanor immediately. The way that she answers the question, she just looks a lot more relaxed and comfortable. Yeah, so let's watch this little bit and then we can chat about what Chris said.
In your room being stolen, is it fair to say that it seems that the person that killed Miss Baker came there specifically for her?
Yeah. Speculation.
Sustained.
But nothing was taken from anyone in the home.
No, sir. Or not from my room. I can only speak to myself.
Dr. Lowe, you mentioned that in the fall semester, Tara had been spending a good bit of time over at Chris's. Were you aware of where that apartment was?
Yes, sir. I believe I remember.
Is that here in Athens?
Yes.
In January, do you have any knowledge as to where Chris was living at that time?
I think he was living in the same place, but I don't fully remember, but I think he was.
Do you have any knowledge of him spending more time at his parents' house?
I remember times that there were, if he had work, in that area, yes.
So you can see that Valery's a lot more comfortable. She doesn't seem to have any problem immediately recalling the answer that she's going to give. And then you could see that Chris had to do a little bit of a prompt there to add in the fact that Chris was living at his parents' house at that time, which is what they want us to believe. But in actual fact, I think it was Chris's own testimony where he says that he wasn't living there at that time. So, I mean, what is the relevance of that? I guess maybe they're trying to place Chris further away geographically during that time, because then it seems less likely that he would be the perpetrator. And you can see that's what they're trying to sort of illustrate along the whole trial, that he was at his parents' house. There's no way he would have been able to get back to his parents and blah, blah, blah. But we all know that his alibi wasn't actually confirmed because I don't think parents count. So, yeah, that's all for Valery. I would really like to hear your opinions on how she came across to you, because I got a few comments on my last video about Ashley and I just love hearing other people's opinions. So please comment. See ya.